At 40 years old, when most NBA legends are enjoying retirement and collecting Hall of Fame honors, Chris Paul just made the most shocking decision of his career. He's returning to the Los Angeles Clippers on a bargain deal, taking a massive pay cut from his previous contract, and this isn't just any comeback story. This is confirmed to be his final season in the NBA, making it the most pressure-packed year of his already legendary career. But here's the twist that nobody saw coming. He's going back to the exact place where his championship dreams first got crushed, where the most devastating heartbreaks of his career happened, and where the ghosts of what could have been still haunt the hallways. The announcement sent shockwaves through the basketball world. Multiple teams were chasing the 12-time All-Star point guard, offering him bigger contracts and better situations. Yet Chris Paul chose to sign a one-year, $3.6 million deal with the Clippers, the same franchise that gave him some of his highest highs and most crushing lows. This isn't just about basketball anymore. This is about legacy, redemption, and one final attempt to silence the critics who've labeled him the greatest player to never win a championship. The question everyone's asking isn't whether he can still play at an elite level, because his performance with the San Antonio Spurs proved he absolutely can. The real question is whether he can finally break the curse that has followed him for 2 decades. The Chris Paul championship curse is one of the most documented phenomena in modern NBA history. 20 seasons in the league, 7 different franchises, countless playoff runs, and not a single championship ring to show for it. This isn't just bad luck we're talking about. This is a pattern of heartbreaking collapses, devastating injuries at the worst possible moments, and decisions that seemed destined to backfire. The basketball gods have seemingly conspired against Chris Paul in ways that defy logic and probability. His career reads like a tragedy written by someone who wanted to see just how much disappointment one superstar could endure. The most painful part isn't even the losses themselves. It's how close he's come. How many times he's been just a few games, sometimes just a few possessions, away from achieving his ultimate goal. The 2018 Western Conference Finals against the Golden State Warriors might be the most brutal example. The Houston Rockets were up 3-2 in the series, just one win away from the NBA Finals when Chris Paul suffered a hamstring injury. Without him, the Rockets collapsed, missing 27 consecutive three-point attempts in the decisive Game 7. That injury didn't just cost him a finals appearance, it likely cost him his best and perhaps only real shot at a championship. But that wasn't even his first devastating playoff moment. Going back to his time with the New Orleans Hornets, Paul carried teams that had no business being in the playoffs deep into the postseason, only to watch them fall short time and time again. The pattern was always the same: individual brilliance, team overachievement, and then crushing disappointment when it mattered most. By the time he reached the Clippers in 2011, many believed he had finally found the right situation to break through. They were absolutely wrong. The Lob City era should have been Chris Paul's championship era. When he joined Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan in Los Angeles, they created one of the most exciting and entertaining teams in NBA history. The alley-oop connections between Paul and his athletic front court became appointment television. Fans would tune in just to see what kind of ridiculous highlight they would produce next. The chemistry was undeniable, the talent was overwhelming, and for the first time in his career, Paul had the supporting cast to match his ambitions. The Clippers made the playoffs in all 6 of his seasons there, transforming from a laughingstock franchise into a legitimate title contender. Yet somehow, they never made it past the second round. The most gut-wrenching example came in 2015 against the Houston Rockets. The Clippers built a commanding 3-1 series lead and seemed destined for their first conference finals appearance. Then they did the unthinkable. They choked away 3 straight games, becoming just the 9th team in NBA history to blow a 3-1 lead in the playoffs. The collapse wasn't just devastating for the franchise, it became a defining moment in Chris Paul's legacy, adding another chapter to his growing reputation as someone who couldn't get over the hump when it mattered most. The dysfunction went beyond just on-court failures. The Donald Sterling scandal erupted during Paul's tenure, revealing racist comments from the team owner and creating a toxic environment that overshadowed everything the team accomplished. The coaching changes, front office instability, and constant drama created a situation where success seemed almost impossible despite the talent on the roster. Paul found himself constantly fighting battles off the court while trying to lead his team through playoff runs, adding layers of stress and distraction that championship teams simply can't afford. After 6 frustrating seasons in Los Angeles, Paul demanded a trade, believing a change of scenery was exactly what his championship chase needed. What followed was a journey through the NBA that reads like a cautionary tale about ring chasing gone wrong. His move to the Houston Rockets seemed perfect on paper, joining James Harden to create one of the most potent offensive backcourts in league history. They came agonizingly close to beating the Golden State Warriors dynasty, but that hamstring injury derailed everything. One season later, chemistry issues and playoff disappointments led to another trade. The Oklahoma City Thunder was supposed to be a rebuilding stop, a veteran presence to help develop young players while the franchise tanked for draft picks. Instead, Paul turned in one of his most impressive individual seasons, leading an overmatched Thunder team to the playoffs and nearly upsetting the heavily favored Houston Rockets in the first round. His leadership and clutch performances reminded everyone that age was just a number for the master point guard. But once again, the ultimate goal remained out of reach. His time with the Phoenix Suns offered the most hope and the most heartbreak. Joining a young, hungry team led by Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton, Paul helped transform the Suns from lottery team to championship contender virtually overnight. The 2021 playoff run was magical. Paul looked rejuvenated. The team chemistry was perfect, and they shocked the basketball world by reaching the NBA Finals. After 16 seasons of disappointment, Chris Paul was finally 4 wins away from his championship. Then the Milwaukee Bucks happened, and once again Paul watched another team celebrate while he wondered what might have been. The pattern continued through stops with the Golden State Warriors and San Antonio Spurs. Despite solid individual performances and moments of brilliance, the championship remained elusive. Each failure added weight to the narrative that Paul, despite being one of the greatest point guards in NBA history, might never win the title that would complete his legacy. The criticism became louder, the doubts more persistent, and the window of opportunity seemed to be closing with each passing season. But here's what makes this Clippers return so fascinating. It's not actually about the money or even the basketball situation. In a revealing interview earlier this summer, Paul opened up about what really matters to him at this stage of his career. He talked about his grandmother, who watches every single game he plays, and how he doesn't get to see her and hug her as much as he'd love to. He mentioned missing precious moments with his kids and family, sacrificing those irreplaceable experiences for his NBA career. The move to Los Angeles isn't just about chasing a championship, it's about being closer to the people who matter most while making one final run at basketball immortality. The family factor adds an emotional layer to this story that goes beyond sports. Paul has been in the NBA for more than half of his life, dedicating everything to the pursuit of greatness. Now at 40 years old, he's trying to balance that pursuit with the realization that time with loved ones is finite and precious. The decision to take less money and return to Los Angeles suggests a man who has finally found the right perspective on what success really means. It's not just about winning a championship anymore, it's about doing it in a way that doesn't cost him everything else that matters. The Clippers haven't been sitting idle while waiting for Paul's return. They've assembled what might be their most talented roster since the Lob City days, adding veteran stars who are all chasing the same elusive goal. Bradley Beal brings elite scoring and playoff experience from his years with the Washington Wizards. Brook Lopez adds championship pedigree and defensive presence from his successful run with the Milwaukee Bucks. John Collins provides athleticism and versatility that should complement the existing core perfectly. On paper, this roster has everything needed to compete with the best teams in the Western Conference. The pressure on this group is immense, but it's nothing compared to what Chris Paul is facing. This isn't just his final season, it's potentially his last realistic shot at a championship. The margin for error is non-existent. Every game matters, every possession counts, and every decision will be scrutinized through the lens of legacy. Paul has to be perfect in a way that he's never quite managed before, and he has to do it while battling the physical limitations that come with being 40 years old in a young man's game. Kawhi Leonard and James Harden carry their own championship expectations, but Paul's burden is different. Leonard already has 2 rings and Finals MVP awards. Harden, despite his playoff struggles, has had MVP-level seasons and individual accolades that secure his legacy. Paul has none of that championship hardware, making this season make or break for how he'll be remembered. The pressure could either crush him or fuel the kind of legendary performance that defines careers. The Western Conference won't make things easy for this aging Clippers roster. The Denver Nuggets are the defending champions with Nikola Jokic in his prime. The Boston Celtics, if they make it through the Eastern Conference again, will be motivated to repeat. Young, hungry teams like the Oklahoma City Thunder and San Antonio Spurs are building something special with their developing superstars. Every night will be a battle, and the playoff path to a championship will be absolutely brutal. What makes this story even more compelling is the psychological aspect of Paul's return to Los Angeles. He's going back to the scene of some of his most painful failures, the place where championship dreams first started turning into nightmares. The ghosts of blown leads, missed opportunities, and what-if moments will be everywhere. He'll be playing in the same building where he experienced some of his most devastating losses, surrounded by reminders of past failures. The mental strength required to overcome that kind of psychological burden while performing at an elite level cannot be understated. The basketball world will be watching every move, analyzing every performance, and waiting to see if this fairy tale ending is actually possible. Paul's story has all the elements of either a triumphant conclusion or a tragic finale. The veteran leadership, the talented supporting cast, the motivation of a final season, and the pressure of a legacy on the line create the perfect storm for either ultimate success or devastating failure. But here's the shocking truth about what Chris Paul really wants from this final season. It's not just about winning a championship, although that remains the primary goal. It's about proving that loyalty, perseverance, and believing in yourself can overcome any curse or narrative. It's about showing that sometimes the most meaningful victories come when you return to where you experienced your greatest defeats. It's about demonstrating that at 40 years old, with everything to lose and everything to gain, the heart of a champion beats stronger than ever. This isn't just Chris Paul's last dance, it's his last chance to rewrite a story that has been defined by near misses and heartbreak. The question isn't whether he's good enough to win a championship, his talent has never been in doubt. The question is whether the basketball gods will finally smile on one of the game's greatest competitors, or if his story is destined to end the same way it has played out for 20 long seasons. One thing is certain, this final chapter will be appointment television, and the entire sports world will be watching to see how the Chris Paul story finally ends.